Hello my friends, this is Dwight from For His Glory 700 coming back at you with another video. And in this video I'm actually going to be commenting on a video that I just actually saw today with this young lady in front of you. Her name is Nestride Yumga. I believe she's from West Africa, specifically from Cameroon. Anyways, she was apparently at a Black Lives rally or protest in, I believe it was Washington, D.C. And she went out to confront and to challenge the protesters regarding the validity of the organization Black Lives Matter. So I'm going to play the video and I'm going to probably comment throughout. But I'm in 100% agreement with this young lady. I believe everything she said is spot on. And it exposes Black Lives Matter for what it is. It's a political organization that, in my opinion, has very little or nothing to do with the black community or uplifting black people or enabling black people to be responsible for themselves and for what goes on within their own community. So anyways, without saying anything further, I will begin this video and I will comment throughout. Here we go.
Black Lives Matter is a joke! You are the racist. The racist is you. It's because the white guy killed that. You think they're racist. The racist, the Black Lives Matter. Go to Chicago. They don't have schools. And they die every day. They don't matter. Because you can get attention from that. Go shut up. Shut up. Nobody will tell you Black Lives Matter.
Okay, so here we go. We have one of these Black Lives Matter protesters or supporters of Black Lives Matter. As you can see, she is quote-unquote African American or Black American or whatever. And as you can see, pretty much all these protesters that are out are wearing their COVID-19 mask to protect themselves from this invisible virus that, on a side note, I don't believe exists at all. But nevertheless, she has it on her face. Clearly, she's not wearing it properly since it's below her nose and her mouth. So she's basically just exposing herself to the potential virus that might be out there in the air. But either way, immediately, she has the right to tell Nestride to shut up, but she has the right to speak. And so again, she's a tool of what I believe the system is, to have black people believe that this Black Lives Matter movement or this organization really is for the justice and the betterment of the black community, but it truly is not. But anyways, let's hear her speak further.
Shut up! Group of hypocrites! Go to Southeast DC, Northeast! Tell them Black Lives Matter! If it matters, it should matter everywhere!
Exactly. She's so right. If Black Lives Matter, it should matter everywhere. Not only when a black person is shot and killed by a law enforcement officer, but even when a black person is killed by another black person. She's absolutely correct.
You guys are hypocrites! Attention seekers! Attention seekers! Black lives should matter everywhere. It doesn't take a white cop to kill a black person to matter. So I'm here today because I heard about a demonstration on, the George Floyd event, situation, which I'm going to be honest about it. It's wrong that, anything like that should happen, okay? It's very wrong. My problem is it shouldn't be an opportunity for a group of people to use that as an excuse or to come across as victims. No one is a victim here. The only victim here is George Floyd. Let's be very clear. Everybody...
You know what? I'd actually have to disagree with her because within the black community, victimology or victimhood is something that runs prevalent within the black community. Black people have been conditioned to believe that we have been victims of slavery, of racism, of bigotry, of discrimination, and as a result, no matter where we turn within Western society, whether that be America, Canada, Europe, or any westernized nations, we're always going to be behind the eight ball. We're always going to have to work harder than the average citizen of that country to get ahead. I'm of the personal mindset that that is not the case, that we have the same opportunity as everyone else does. We simply have to apply ourselves. But in America, and maybe to a lesser extent in Canada, there is this mentality within the black community of victimology, that we are perpetual victims, and then that becomes an excuse for why individuals within the black community are not where they believe or perceive they should be, and that basically everything should be handed out to them. But as it relates to the passing of George Floyd, I have my own separate thoughts on that. I think there's something more going on with the George Floyd tragedy. I even have questions of whether or not he may actually be dead. But that's another issue for another day. Let's continue.
Everybody knows that black kills black more than anything. You know that.
She's right. She's absolutely right. The statistics prove it, not only in America, but anywhere around the world where there's a large concentration of black folks. For some reason, black people in general, not all, there's a higher death rate among blacks killing blacks versus other ethnic groups. Our numbers are the highest in terms of blacks killing blacks in comparison to whites killing whites, or browns killing browns, or Asians killing Asians. It's just a simple fact. And she's pointing that out, that if the death rate among blacks is highest in terms of homicide rates within the black community, the focus of Black Lives Matter truly should be focused on those issues within the black communities, not only when an individual who happens to be black is shot and killed by a white officer.
It doesn't take a white person to kill them for you to come out. Hypocrites. Just leave. You leave. I'm present. You.
Okay, so now this lady says, just leave. Again, she's not wearing her COVID-19 because she's a cult member of COVID-19. She's not wearing her mask properly. It's clearly below her nose, and it's covering her mouth. Now she has her child with her. Her child looks like she's somewhere like between 2 and 3 years of age. She decided to bring her daughter out to this rally. I'm just assuming it is her daughter. And I'm thinking, well, why would it be necessary for her to do so? It would have been better for her to leave her child at home and to come out and to join this protest. So now she's telling Nestride to leave, but she has the right to stay. Like, what's that all about?
You leave. Let me leave. Make me leave. Bunch of hypocrites. Black Lives Matter only when a white person touch a black person. Do you know how many black kids got killed in Northeast DC this morning? What did you do? You guys are the racists. What did you do?
And you know, that's a valid point, you know, that this movement called Black Lives Matter is in many ways a very racist movement, because it doesn't really focus on the issue of Black Lives Matter, and the absolute majority of homicides are committed by blacks on blacks, so black on black crime and violence, and the death rates support that among blacks killing other blacks, then it would seem to make sense that blacks should be addressing the issue of violence and murder and mayhem within the black community, and not as it relates to isolated cases where an individual black person runs into trouble with law enforcement. She's absolutely correct. I support what she's saying 100%. The stats support it. And blacks, when they're among themselves, in my opinion, they're absolutely honest about what she's saying, but it's not popular, nor is it politically correct to say what she's saying openly. But she's right.
Do besides come out here and provoke shit?
No, go out there and tell the black people
Go out there and help them.
Go tell.
All right, so we have another tool of the system. Again, another COVID idiot, a cult member of the system who has his mask on. Again, his mask is not properly worn. He has it below his nose. It's supposed to be covering his nose and his mouth. And as a side note, the virus, if it exists at all, is much smaller than the material that makes up a face mask. So it doesn't matter what these people are wearing. The fact that they're able to breathe to some degree while wearing that mask means that if COVID happens to be in the air, the coronavirus, guess what? You're breathing it in. But anyways, he's a convenient tool of the system, and he's challenging her in terms of what she's doing. And she's just simply exposing the reality that Black Lives Matter is a hypocritical organization because it's not addressing the real issues within the black community, and that's black on black crime. And she's absolutely right. But he's a tool of the system, so he's going to go along with whatever he's been told to do. So here we go.
Black Lives Matter, then they will take you seriously. Everybody thinks this as a joke.
You a joke, because you playing, go out there and do it.
And she's right. I agree with her. I believe Black Lives Matter is a joke because it doesn't ever address issues within the black community when blacks are killing blacks. You don't hear about it anywhere. At any time. The only time you ever hear about Black Lives Matter is when there's an incident between a black individual and law enforcement, and that individual happens to get shot and killed by law enforcement. And in almost all of those cases where this individual is either shot and killed by law enforcement, the whole thing could have been avoided, in my opinion. But blacks, again, based on indoctrination and the victim mentality that law enforcement and everyone else is out to get them, whenever they're confronted by law enforcement, instead of just simply complying and following through with the directives that they're given to follow through with, assuming that it's not life-threatening, instead of doing that, they escalate the situation to the point that law enforcement may feel threatened. And at that point, things go from bad to worse.
You a joke.
What are you doing for the Chicago kids who are dying every day?
What you doing?
Do you go there and tell them Black Lives Matter?
You going?
Make me go.
You going?
Make me go.
I'm so supportive of them go.
Make me go. As an American citizen, I'm proud of this country. I love this country. I don't want my country to be portrayed like this. We have a problem. Agree. We have a problem in our country. Agree. Okay? Too much violence. But it should not be categorized as a symbolism for racism on blacks. No. We are in a free country. Let's be very clear. We have foreign news media here. Our country is going to be portrayed the way they want our country to be portrayed, and which is not accurate. My point was that black kids...
And she's right about that. There's an agenda by the corporate media, the mainstream media, the mass media to project racial tension in America and around the world as being something that needs to be addressed, that is a crisis issue. And again, I believe that this whole situation with the death of George Floyd, it has very little to do with George Floyd. It has everything to do, in my opinion, with the attempts that they're making to change the world economic system and to put it under the New World Order. I believe that this whole racial incident, I believe, is part of the agenda of the New World Order. I really believe that. I believe that blacks are being used, as they have been in the past, to propagate and to promote this false narrative of police brutality escalating or going through the roof within the black community, and that this is a systemic racism, or this is a situation that is systemic. I don't believe it is. I honestly don't believe it is. And I believe there's others within the black community that would agree with Nestride and would also agree with me, but we're definitely the absolute minority within our own communities.
Kids in Chicago get killed every single day. Where is the Black Lives Matter in Chicago?
Correct.
Where are they?
Where are they?
When black people kill black people, they don't come out and do this crap. The
That's
only
right.
time they do this crap is when a white person touches them. They're the racists.
That's right. That's right. She's
They are the
absolutely right.
racists.
Absolutely
because
right.
white cops, it's wrong for a white cop to kill a black person. That's for sure. But
Yeah, and I would agree. It's wrong for a white cop to kill a black person if it's not necessary. I mean, there's got to be circumstances and situations where it would warrant a law enforcement officer to use deadly force if necessary, whether that individual happens to be black or white. And there's many cases also, more so than in black cases, where white individuals have been shot and killed by white law enforcement officers. But again, that does not support the narrative of what they want to address as this being systemic racism, and that law enforcement is simply out to kill every black person that they come across. Again, I don't agree with this. I believe that almost in all the cases where there's a situation of escalation between a black person and a white law enforcement officer, more times than not, that person is known by law enforcement. They have some type of record, and then we make a martyr out of people that have, they're not law-abiding citizens, and then for the most part, they contribute to the loss of their own lives more times than not.
But if it matters, it should matter at all times. So what are you fighting for? What are you fighting for?
Okay, so here we go. We have this liberal, white liberal, and usually in this case, for some reason, white women tend to be the most vocal, even among white men. They just happen to be most vocal. And so now she's going to be speaking, and she's going to be challenging Nestride in terms of why are you out here, and why are you out here? They simply don't want any opposition to challenge the narrative of Black Lives Matter and the real agenda that's behind it. But as you will see, Nestride stands her ground and is unwilling and is uncompromising in speaking the truth.
You're not here to fight injustice. You're here to cause
message will be stop violence. It's not about blacks.
In a unicorn world. That's why the unicorn world.
Period.
Okay, since you're so...
You guys claim blacks are oppressed. I am black. I'm not oppressed.
I am black. I am not oppressed. Her mindset is beautiful, but that mindset is a minority view. But I agree with her. I love what she said. I am black and I am not oppressed. She is not following the narrative by those within the Black Lives organization. She knows